As an Uber driver, as a human, I have three thoughts about the immigration riots and protests going on in Los Angeles. Wow. It seems like every now and then our nation just has to go through these turbulent times. Yeah, and watching what's going on in Los Angeles from the families that are being torn apart by parents or somebody, being removed from the nation, and the protests and then the violence that goes along with that. It's wow, it's not good. It's not good. And I don't have a position on immigration from that standpoint. We'll talk about that near the end of the video, I think of, but the first thing that kind of caught my eye was, as an Uber driver, those Waymos burning. And I thought to myself, that there's a case for humans to be driving cars. I could just see this dumb autonomous car pulling up right into the thick of some sort of violent thing that's going on. And then another one, and then another one. And they could see a car burning right in front of them, but because they're artificial intelligence, or maybe not that intelligent, they're just driving right into it. And I can tell you, as my passenger, you'll be safe. There's no way I'm driving to the smoke. If I see smoke off in the distance, we're not driving toward it. We're going the other way. But if the car got surrounded, I would take evasive action. I would do my best to keep you safe. So maybe that's 1 point for the humans. Um, but on a maybe more serious note, I had an Uber passenger, um, student. She's from China. Um, and she's just graduated from college. And, so the typical question is, what are you going to do next? And over the last, I've been Uber driving for 5 years, and maybe this is not like statistical proof, but I think a lot of students, when they graduated, their first goal a long time ago, at least 5 years ago when I first started, was to stay in the US, graduate, get a job, immigrate to the US. And I've had friends that are closer to my age that definitely did that. You can see people immigrating to the US. Um, but now more and more, and maybe for good reasons, it has nothing to do with the US, but these other countries, India, China, you name it, are quite frankly really got a good places to be. In fact, forgetting the Chinese girl for a second, getting back to her story in a second, I had this Nigerian student, young guy, college student, and he was born in Texas, but his family from Nigeria decided to move back to Nigeria to give their children a Nigerian experience. And then he came back to the US for college. And that's pretty cool. So yeah, I think the world's becoming a leveler playing field in terms of quality of life, especially if you're affluent. I think if you were to go back to Nigeria, if you're rich, it's great to be in Nigeria. If you're poor, you probably want to be in the US. And I don't know, I've never been to Nigeria, but back to the Chinese girl, the student, just really smart young lady. It was fun to talk to her and listen to her story. And I asked her, I said, so after you graduate, what are you going to do? And, now that you have graduated, she said, I wanted to stay here and go to, graduate school and maybe get a job. But I don't know if you guys want me here in this country. Man, that was really hard to hear. She wasn't the first one, by the way. I just thought about it and I saw the riots and I thought I'd express that to you. Um, yeah, that was really, really tough to hear. You know, um, and now let's be frank. Look at me, old white guy, wasp, right? Entrepreneur, capitalist, Christian, you name it, whatever label you want to put on me, just by visually looking at me, she probably thinks Trump MAGA guy, maybe, and I don't know what she thinks. She seemed really nice and it wasn't negative by any stretch of our ride. Um, but I think visually I might represent that, and I'm not naive, I guess I would say. And but yeah, I thought our country isn't appealing to her. Now again, if you I have never been to the cities in China, but I've seen videos and they look pretty amazing. And that's where her parents might be, family, there's good food, whatever culture so that's home, and I get that. But the the, the United States isn't tempting enough for her to take the risk of potentially being um deported, I guess, maybe in her mind that, for legal or illegal reasons. I don't know. Again, I'm not going to sit there and say I have a strong thought toward that one way or another, but it's just the United States doesn't look like the place for her. And that's a shame because I think the United States place, this is my third thought. I think the United States could be a place for everybody. I think we are the most multicultural place. If you go to Japan, I used to live in Japan, Japanese are Japanese, right? And a lot of these nations have their own identity. Egypt, I don't know, let's go around the world, Germany, you name it. Germans are Germans and Japanese are Japanese. Americans, we are the melting pot. And this is the third thing. This is my thought toward immigration. And I'm not sure how you're going to feel about this because I believe in the rule of law, and I definitely think we don't want gang members here and stuff like that. And I get that. But if I was in charge of immigration, this is the philosophy I'd have. Everyone is welcome legally. You can't be sneaking across the border or overstaying your visa or nothing like that. But legally, we want everyone here, and that includes not only the best and the brightest, like that young student that I was talking to. I don't. You could be 80 years old. You need help. I want our nation to be a nation where people want to come. They want to pursue their dreams. They want to feel safe and secure. In fact, this is this is what makes me think this. I think one of the things Americans have, or maybe anybody in the world has, is they think about world population, or can we have too many people? And I'm not going to break it all down for you here, but you can do the math on your own. Go open your own artificial intelligence app and try to do this math. It's kind of interesting. But in college, in grad school, we did this exercise. It was about world population. And we put this big what if out there. What if the world had 10 billion people, 10 billion humans alive at any given point in time, and they all came to the US? Now, let's make it even worse. Not worse, but more condensed. Let's put 10 billion people east of the Mississippi. So the West is farmland, whatever you want to put, but the 10 billion of the most of the population, 9.9 whatever billion it takes to, other than the farming, to live over there on this side. And then let's say half of that land east of the Mississippi is uninhabitable. It's water, mountains, whatever it is. And then half of the inhabitable land is parks, some green space so humans can go and walk or whatever. What would it look like? You know, so you can imagine like this futuristic world, some sort of Star Wars world where the planet's just nothing but, where that region, whatever it is nothing but buildings. Um, you can't see the sun. If there's skyscrapers, for hundreds of miles, but it's not going to look like that. It's just going to show you how big this world is. It would look like Brooklyn. Maybe be from Maine to Florida, out to Ohio or whatever, down into Louisiana, the Mississippi, whatever. But the quarter of the land, because again, half of it, of that area, is uninhabitable. So the mountains would still be the mountains and the lakes would still be the lakes. The rivers would still be the rivers. And half of that remaining half would be, the quarter of it would be parks. Think Central Park, your local playground, whatever it might be. And then the rest of it would look like Brooklyn. And Brooklyn isn't Manhattan. Now it has some skyscrapers now, but not a lot. Brooklyn is mostly buildings that are what, 3, 4, 5 stories tall. And there's a lot of homes, just single family homes. Now, they're packed and they're tight. It's not like a suburban Dallas home or something like that. And I realize that not everybody wants to move to the US. I get that. So I'm not saying that has to happen. And I realize there's clashes of governments and cultures and that shouldn't be living together. I get all that. So I'm not trying to say it's doable. All I'm trying to do is think of a perspective of when I try to think about things, I try to go to the extreme. And if I were to say the biggest fear that I would have having everybody move here would be like, could we make it work physically? Could we have enough water, food, shelter? Would it be this horrible hellscape city? And maybe Brooklyn is that to you. I don't know. But you, we can make it work. So my position on immigration is I want everybody here. I love it all. I love all of the cultures that come to the US, and I want us to assimilate and live together in peace. Now, there are foundational things, rule of law, right? There are foundational things like I think English is our language. I think we have a culture of entrepreneurism and capitalism and freedom of speech, freedom of religion. I mean, we can go through all that stuff. So I think there's an aspect to being an American, but I don't think hamburgers and French fries is an American thing. I don't think rock and roll is an American thing. I don't think some of those cultural things are strictly American. And I want it all because I like it all. Um, yeah. So if you're in a Waymo, you're at risk. Know that. Because the Waymo's going to drive you to the protests. Danger, danger. Now, hey, thank you so much for listening. My name is Levi. This is the Daily Drive. And if you're a driver, an Uber driver for 2025, I want you to drive your way. I really do. I want you to be safe, healthy, happy, and enjoy the ride. I want you to make the most amount of money that you possibly can. And just know that I am cheering for you. Be well, be safe. Bye.